What's up, everyone? We are back on another episode of Pound for Pound. I am the Nigerian Nightmare Kamaru Usman.
Henry Cejudo, aka Triple C.
We had to hop on real quick to talk about Jon Bones Jones, all the big news surrounding that, and where we go next in that heavyweight division. But also later in the show, we have a fantastic interview with the Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Vitor Belfort, the Phenom. So you definitely make sure you stay tuned for that.
A Shadowline production.
Henry Cejudo. My man, big news. Obviously, it's been a talk of the town lately. Jon Jones finally announces his retirement. Everyone's been chiming in on this, weighing in on this. I've seen some okay things, but then I've also seen some things that aren't okay because it's Jon Jones. It's the greatest we've ever seen. Of course, we haven't seen him a ton in these last couple of years, but it's Jon Jones. If he decides that, hey, this is it, it's time for me to walk, then so be it. Happy for him. Jon has gave us some spectacular performances and really entertained the masses. So, I'm more power to him if that's it for him. But as far as everyone going, the mixed feelings of him retiring, I think it's a little bit unfair. What do you feel? What do you feel like, Henry?
Yeah, I mean, it's you hit the nail on the head, Kamaru. He's defended his bout. What is it, 17 times? Something good, a number that people don't even. He's become a two-division world champ. From the light heavyweight to the heavyweight division. I mean, Jon Jones could do whatever the hell he wants. Like truly, like it ain't a Conor McGregor quote. It's literally Jon Jones could do whatever the hell he wants. And the fact that he's willing to leave at the age of 37, he knows. I mean, people know when it's time to give it up. They feel like Jon is in that situation where, of course, if Tom Aspinall loses his next fight, it's it was Tom. We thought Tom. At one point everybody thought Johnny Walker was the guy. At the light heavyweight division. I mean, we hear about this trend all the time. But I will say this, man. Tom is a lot more dangerous, but Jon is in a position where he's done everything. He's beaten. He's walked through two, going into three different generations. I mean, I feel like it's just time for people to just give him his flowers, man. Respect. I would have wished Jon would have went out and done his. The people were able to hear it from him rather than from Dana White and Baku, Azerbaijan. But but even then, Jon does whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah. Unfortunately, obviously, this probably was something that no one was there behind. We weren't all there behind closed doors to understand what the negotiation was or what happened in this situation. But I heard obviously Daniel Cormier weighed in a little bit, and I know he probably didn't mean it maliciously, but he's like, Jon Jones quit. Jon quit, and
DC wants
I
them
know he
likes,
did.
Kush. He wants them likes.
I
He wants that clickbait. I know DC.
and I know he didn't mean it in a malicious way, but that's implying that this man, it's implying something other than what it is. And if it truly is this man saying, you know what, I have nothing else to prove, I'm done, let me leave, then hey, let's give him his flowers and let's not just start to, be disappointed just because we as fans of the game and as fans of Jon Jones, we are not happy because he didn't give us that fix that we wanted, which was fighting Tom Aspinall or fighting Mr. Francis Ngannou. So it is what it is. Jon decides to retire. More power to Johnny Bones Jones. Yeah, I mean that's about it, Henry.
Yeah, no, but check this out too, Kamaru, because I've spoken to Jon. We spoke the day before. We spoke the day before he actually, or Dana White did the retirement. And what we did, It's just there's just a satisfaction to him because even we even talked about my careers. Like John, if I had a abundance of money, dude, I'd probably never come back because there's something special about leaving on top. There's something special about not just leaving on top, but in his situation, is he's leaving on top as the greatest of all time. You know what I'm saying? There's so many windows and there's so many windows of opportunities and doors that are gonna open for John that people have no idea. I mean, there's real estate. There is him being ambassador for big companies. I know he just signed a big ambassadorship with I forget what company it is. I mean, there's Hollywood. I mean, talk about there's making movies, man. John has that persona where he could potentially get into Hollywood, man. And there's easier way to make money for a guy like John if he has the right people pushing him, management and things like that, really connecting the dots. That I feel like it's just he's in that position where he could truly make money outside of the cage, if not even more. It was never really about the money with John. I was speaking to him for, dude, we're on the phone for like 33 minutes a few weeks ago. And he was just saying, dude, like it's my legacy is written, man. My legacy is written. And then we started talking about just what's next, bro. And I actually brought up you. I actually brought up like who manages you, and I brought up a little bit of Shaquille O'Neal and how he should look out for Shaq and get mentored by him. Because look at what Shaq does. Look at how Shaq is able to use his size, his persona to not just get money from people, but become an ambassador for these companies where he's able to make crazy amount of money while being an owner of this. You know what I'm saying? It's like look at Shaquille O'Neal. Like who mentored Shaquille? You know who mentor Shaquille O'Neal, Kamaru? Magic Johnson. You know what I'm saying? I told this to John. I'm like, John, you should get mentored by Shaquille O'Neal because this guy's doing it right, man. And then I told him, like, John, you can make so much more money like Shaquille O'Neal has done outside of basketball. Shaquille O'Neal has made way more money, 5 times the amount of money what he made in basketball now in business. And I just feel like that's just where his head's at. That's where our head should be at too, including you, Kamar. I mean, Black Panther. I mean, why can't you, Spirit, be the head honcho in the next,
The
the next,
Black
the next
Panther.
movie? You know,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, my brother.
but
Hey, if
but you know what I'm saying,
Ryan,
Kamar?
hey,
But do you know what I'm saying,
yeah, of
Kamar?
course,
Like,
of
dude, there
course.
is life if you're able to leverage your career correctly. George Foreman, same thing. These guys are able to make that crazy amount of money. So, that was more of my 2 cents with John. But I'm happy for him. Congratulations to him. I think now it's time for him to just sit back and be satisfied through business.
But okay, but Henry, here's the thing now is Dana White, obviously we announced that now Tom Aspinall is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Now think about what's the first. What do you think? Where do we put him now? I mean, what's the first step for him in moving forward here? Because he hadn't fought the number 2 yet. He hasn't. I don't believe he's fought number 3 yet. He's beaten 4 and he's beaten 5, but not 6. So what do you think would
Yeah,
be the
no, it's
first
it's
one here?
simple. It's simple. You give him the one contender, Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane
Right.
is somebody that's a big heavyweight that's very agile. I don't think I
Yeah.
don't think I don't think Tom Aspinall gets rid of him right away like he has with other people, and I think that'll be a big indication on if Jon Jones wants to come back and reclaim that bout once again, just to kind of get a 2 cent a feel of what Tom is all about now that they have a mutual competitor. But the only thing that I will say is if Tom does, for one apparent reason, lose that fight. I mean, all that money that John was offered, because I do believe that the UFC offered him everything that they felt like it should have been offered. But John just apparently said no. But to go back, I think Tom has to fight Cyril Gane, and I think the UFC needs to negotiate with a guy like Francis Ngannou. I mean, the UFC has fought with people and have brought people back into the UFC, and I don't see. I mean, where else is Francis going to go? The PFL is. It's only a matter of time, Kamara, before the PFL literally just goes bankrupt. I mean, tell
Well,
me if
let's
tell
not
me
put
if
that
I'm
out
am
there.
I wrong? Am I wrong?
I mean, I let's not put that out there because we want the PFL to not go bankrupt. We want the PFL to stick around because of the amazing things that PFL has been doing and the amazing things that PFL is doing for some of these fighters by giving them opportunities. So
By
no,
canceling
we don't.
events, Kamaru? By canceling
No, we
events?
don't. We
By letting
don't
go of their
want that.
champions?
Hey, things
I'm with
happened.
you. I'm with you.
You know,
I am with you
things happen.
100%. But a
But
spade is a spade, Kush. A spade is a spade. I would love for the
I hear your
PFL to
concerns.
continue to keep rivaling the UFC, but that doesn't seem. I mean, I don't want to be a
Right.
wishful thinker either, my
Well,
brother.
let's see. Based on what we're going at, I think you're absolutely right. I think Tom Aspinall first, the fight that makes sense. Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane. Let's make that happen. Cyril Gane is a people forget how fantastic he is. A guy that can kind of float around the octagon, touch you, kick you, hit you with elbow. He's just a complete game. And so I think that is something that could potentially present dangers for a guy like Tom Aspinall. But man, Tom's movement, his boxing, and the speed and his power is, hey, listen, I can't. It's very very difficult to doubt this man anymore. So yeah, that's not something that we're gonna do here. I think it's gonna be a spectacular fight. I think if UFC doesn't have anything scheduled, let's say in November, December, I think this is the fight. If not MSG, I think you do this fight in December in Vegas, I believe, or wherever else they choose. That it's going to be a big market for them. But yeah, that's it. And listen, here's the wrench. And I do think Jon is not completely saying I don't want to compete anymore. I think Jon is saying, I don't want to do this anymore. The whole I have to fight the number one contender, the whole I gotta beat him or I gotta defend, I gotta do this. I don't want that pressure. I don't want to do any of that. I want the fun fights. I want the big fights. I want a fight that everyone's gonna know it's a humongous fight that's gonna be fun. That is not the added pressure of, oh, you have to defend this title, defend this. And I think Jon Jones will want to fight a guy like Francis Ngannou. And I mean, obviously, everyone will. I know Tom Aspinall potentially would definitely love that fight because Tom Aspinall is trying to elevate himself to that place of letting everyone know that I am the superstar heavyweight now here. So the only way, the main way that he wants to do that is through beating a guy like Jon Jones or through beating a guy like Francis Ngannou. And if he gets either one of those, that lets everyone know that this is a superstar to be reckoned with, to keep an eye on. But if it doesn't happen, it is what it is. Farewell to the man, the legend, Mr. Johnny Bones Jones. Yeah, we appreciate everything obviously that he's done in the sport, and it's okay. It's okay to pass and move on. People shouldn't shit on that, or people shouldn't try to down him for that and say, oh, he did this, he did that, or he quit. Because hey, Henry, you're absolutely right. He's done what he needed to do for his legacy, and he wants to move on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Henry,
but can I ask you something real quick, Kamaru, just to kind of end it there?
what's
What
up?
would you do if you're in Jon Jones' position?
If I was in Jon Jones' position, this is the very, very difficult things that I don't think a lot of people understand is George St. Pierre left where people went, oh, he still has some left. And he decided, no, you know what? I need to leave. And he left and he kept himself and he kept that brand intact. And he was able to move on and do partnership brand deals that were lucrative, that keeps that cash flow coming for the rest of your life because you were sought as the champ. You were the champion. You left as the champion. And Habib Nurmagomedov left as the champion. So wherever you go, you're going to be looked at as the champion. Everywhere, everything that you do is you're still the champion until you come in here and someone takes that from you. And so there is that battle within self to where it's, do I want to risk it one more time, potentially lose and not be saw as invincible anymore? Or do I just bow out right now and go and still be able to get those brand deals and all of those things because I am invincible and I will stay invincible for quite some time. So, I mean, honestly, I'm not mad at Jon Jones. I'm not mad at him because you can make money. Like you just said, Henry, there's plenty other ways to make money. It doesn't have to be risking your everything, including your life, in here. So I'm not mad at him, Henry. What about you?
Yeah, no. Neither am I, dude. If anything, kudos to him, dude. I'm actually proud of him, bro. I'm glad. Khabib could have kept going. George St. Pierre had the ability to defend his belt, even if the fact when he became double champ. You know what I mean? To be fair on that, Jon Jones, he defended his belt. He's defended his light heavyweight title 14 times, like a crazy amount of numbers. Like bro, just let it be. You know what I'm saying? Like he's been undefeated in his whole damn career. So I am happy for that. But I love I love what he has to say about Francis Ngannou and the UFC. Can you go up real quick, Logie Bear? And let me read this to you, Kamaru. This is what Johnny Jones on his way out. Look at what he's saying about Francis Ngannou. Dana White gets things done. I think business speaks before emotions, and if Francis presents himself in a very humble way, I think he could very easily get back into UFC. You know what? He is 100% right. Francis Ngannou, do not fight with the UFC, man. Do not, do not, do not, do not. I trolled them for the longest, thinking that I was the best thing since sliced bread, and they won't talk to you. They'll dry you out. And I think if a guy like Francis does want to make the biggest impacts in the sport of mixed martial arts, it's definitely in the UFC. So do I believe Francis Ngannou's going to be back in the UFC? I 1000% believe that Francis Ngannou will be back, but that only depends on Francis Ngannou, not the UFC.
I agree. It also is the UFC because we've seen them kind of say, you know what, like you said, it will starve you out. We've seen them say, you know what, yeah, never mind, we're not interested. So I think it's a bit of both, but of course, it's when you're Francis Ngannou and you've been successful outside and you've made financial security that you've gotten outside. It's like you have to really soul search to see if this is something that I want to step back into. So on both parts, I think it's what news that would be. This might be just as big as when Rampage left and Rampage came back. This might be way bigger than that if Francis is able to come back. So fingers crossed. Of course, we would all love that. I would love that. And I'm sure every UFC fan would absolutely love that. So now let's get into our interview with 2025 Hall of Fame inductee, the Phenom, Mr. Vitor Belfort.
And today we have a very, very special guest. I'm talking about the Phenom. I believe at that time was the youngest UFC champion in history. I mean, this guy really pioneered the sport of mixed martial arts. When he came in, he really put not just the sport of mixed martial arts on the map, but in particularly Brazil. The one and only, the Phenom, Vitor Belfort. What do you think, Vitor? You like my intro?
Oh man, it was awesome. I think we gotta get you. We gotta get you there with Bruce Buffer.
Bruce Buffer, move out the way.
But Henry, it's a journey. It's a journey, and on that journey, a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
And that's what we're gonna be talking about.
Yeah. And your story, Vitor, like one of the guys that when I grew up watching the sport of mixed martial arts, it was you. It was you. I remember when the whole tournament format that the UFC started having. And I remember it could have been your debut in the UFC. You didn't fight. I want to say you fought Tank Abbott, maybe the second or third fight.
Second fight.
Yeah, second. Okay, so you had fought the other guy,
yeah.
Little belly or whatnot, but these dudes were like a lot bigger than you, like heavier than you. And I remember seeing you go with your straight punches, to eventually you ended up dropping them, and then a little bit of that ground and pound.
Yeah, with Scott Fehosa.
Yeah, and that was it. And then after that, on the same day, Tank Abbott. Tank Abbott at that time, he was putting everybody out.
Yeah, nobody wants to fight Tank Abbott. Tank Abbott was a very dangerous opponent. You know, he was a knockout. You know, he would hit people and put you to sleep.
Yeah.
And he was very aggressive. He was the type of the Conor McGregor at that time, for real. But he was literally vicious with punchings, and he kind of knew wrestling. That was his background. But he was a very violent man. And I was the opposite, you know. I'm violent in the cage, but outside the cage, I'm an athlete. I'm a sportman. And I mean, fighting back in the time, it was very raw. So, and when people come now to martial arts, you got to go back to history. When you know, in every sport, basketball, football, baseball, they respect the legend. I feel in MMA, even the fighters don't respect the legend. They don't understand like you do. You do understand. But I mean, a lot of guys, they have ego and they don't want to recognize or admit that someone else motivating them to become who they are today. So I feel that way. Like a lot of guys in the camera, outside of the camera, hey, you're my inspiration. But in the camera, they're not. And all that is because we have a thing called ego. You know, fighters have the ego, and they have to feed their ego. I understand, but I mean, recognizing greatness is the most humble thing, because that's how you get better. When you recognize even your opponent or someone that you don't like, you recognize greatness in someone, you can learn, you can grow, and that's how the sport grew.
I'm super excited to do this because, I mean, watching you are one of the only fighters that has gone through several decades of waves. You've seen how the sport of mixed martial arts has changed from the one style coming in, dominating, to now some guys are having two styles. And you were kind of one of those guys that pioneered being able to not just be good on the ground, but you could use your hand as well. You could use your boxing. Now, looking at the landscape of the way that MMA is right now, because I know your son trains a little bit, how do you see this crop of guys and where the sport is right now?
Well, that's a very deep question. One of my attributes that I had when I was a kid is to see the future. I remember I sat down with so many men. I offer UFC. Our UFC is going to be bigger than boxing. People used to call me crazy. I remember UFC was yesterday. John Peters had the offer to buy UFC for $2 million. Say, buy right now. Buy. It's worth it. And nobody knows it's too expensive. And he didn't buy. Lorenzo and his brother bought UFC. And I'm glad they did. The UFC was sold for the right people. And you can see the legacy standing on. But in the business, everything's flourish. I may not agree with how they flourish. I think I'm not going to go there in the payday, how it works. I just have, we all agree that the executives, the behind the scenes, everything is so perfectly done through the years. It was beautiful. But I'm very sad to see how fighters treat themselves. They don't know what recovery means. They don't know how to turn on and turn off the body. And the problem lays on an entourage. Every fighter, it's being bombarding with, every trainer has a secret that no one has. And I know exactly how it is, because when you become dependent of a trainer, if I don't have this guy, I'm going to lose the fight. We call emotion debt. You can never have emotion debt in business. In business, you have to make business decision. That's what I said. This is a business decision. I have to kill this business, because even though I am a billionaire, this business cannot survive anymore. So businessmen, they know how to make this business decision. But fighters, they don't. They don't know how to say, this relationship is poison. I need to end up right now. They don't. Look, you see football, you see basketball, you see the whole thing. Remember Hernandez? He didn't know how to end up some relationships. End up being what? He's being killed in jail. So now I want to go back what you said, what I see that never changed. It's almost going, when I go back to see how people train, of course it's not the same, but you see 80 guys training in the same room, and you say, we have one guy here, and they're not as specific anymore. It's more as a group. So my thing is this, is a team sport, yes, but it's an individual sport. So a lot of guys, not a lot of guys, some of the guys, they got this and they know how to do it. You are one of them. Henry's one of them. You guys know how to separate. So, but even though we make decisions, but what is the most important things? Recovery. They don't understand recovery. They think ice bath. People think recovery is ice bath, sauna, and compressed breath. This is not recovery. I'm sorry. This is not recovery. Recovery is knowing what you do every single day. So people ask me, how many hours you train a day? 24 hours. Because recovery is what you do. So especially with phones now. So do you know it's a new thing? Phones are the biggest enemy of athletes. It's the biggest dopamine. So people don't know what's recovery. So when you go back to martial arts, I remember one thing that it's obvious. If you go to the Bible, you see, they could not have sex. The Bible says they could not have semen. They could not have sex before the war. Carson Gracie, when I used to live with him, I have to do everything with open doors. No girls allowed in the house. I cannot, when I take shower, I cannot close. So he said, not just having sex, no masturbation. So he explained me about the semen getting out of your body. Say, Victor, he literally said the Gracie family had this thing in mind. Before you go to fight, it's 3 months no semen coming out of your body. So they have this theory of something more. And when you study the wars, in the Bible, you see that they had the same thing. That's why they could not have contact with their wives. So this is just one aspect. But now you in your house, so it's a lot of little things. And people said, we train for 12 weeks camp, 8 weeks camp, 4 weeks camp, 2 weeks camp, short notice. Now you have all type of things. But how can you stay even in how you turn on and how you turn off? So studying everything now, we have 2 things in our body, 2 systems, parasympathetic and sympathetic. That's the only things we have in our body. So we learn turn on, turn off. But how you do that after you finish your career or when you out of, so it's a lot of little things, but it's such a big thing when you go into this fight because now everybody has an opinion. Everybody's a trainer. Everybody's a meat holder. Oh, I'm a massage trainer. I'm a nutrition trainer. Everybody's a coach.
Now, did you understand all of this when you started? Because you were in the UFC at about 18, 19?
Oh, I was 18 first fight.
18 first fight in the UFC. Now, did you already understand this at that time?
Yes, but I no one believed me, so they call me crazy. So example, in Carson Gracie, they don't allow me to box. But when I was a kid, when Carson brought me in, I used to knock all the black belts out. And they said, don't lift weights, stop lifting weights, you cannot lift weights. Don't do this, don't do that. And I remember when I came to Carson, say, Carson, why they don't want me to box? I need to box. Do you see? I was 15. I say, no one can take me down. And it used to be open hands, like you train like a taparia. And I remember like Zé Mario, all the guys, no one said, Victor, I became his recipe. I became he used to call galo de briga. So Carson used to have cockfights. So he used to call us, names of, he sees us as an animal. That's how he sees us. And he said, you just listen to me. He said, just listen what I say, don't do what I do. So we had an argument. We always have an argument because I used to hate because I want him to see on the mat. And he said, just do what I say, don't do what I do. But I say, but you're not going to live so long doing this life. So I always had a vision, but I didn't know how to do it. It was everything was so raw back in the days.
So was this why, because that thing was kind of floating around like, oh, Vitor doesn't commit to one gym. Vitor goes to this gym or that gym. Because you were at, Extreme Couture. You were at Brazilian Top Team, I believe. Also down at Black Zillions. and obviously Carson, Gracie, a couple of those teams, and I think you are right, because MMA is still kind of one of those sports that's personal, and so when a coach feels invested, they don't want you to potentially go somewhere else, and now that other gym is starting to take credit for kind of your acceleration or your ascension to where you got to. I mean, being a champion, two-time champion, I can see how coaches would go, no, we want to keep that for ourselves. Vitor is a product of Carson Gracie and not Extreme Couture. And nowadays, I think do you see fighters still kind of struggle with that?
Just for understanding, when you own a business, when you do something in life, you got to remember, who built LeBron James? Do you guys know who was his coach?
LeBron James.
Do you understand? So why LeBron James is LeBron James? Because LeBron James is going to hire this coach and he's going to fire this coach. You fighters have to understand. Where's the camera? This is my camera. You guys got to understand. You got to fire people that cannot do their job. So you are paying them to work for you. It's crazy. I'm paying you and you decide what. It's like this. You go into the restaurant and you're going to pay, but the guy's going to pick your food. No, you're not going to eat this. You're going to eat what I want. So do you understand? So you got to understand this. This is a business decision. But I know it has relationships. But like I said, what is relationships? Do you know when I know someone loves me? When I'm not working with that person anymore. That's how I show my loyalty to him. So example, I always said, when I fire that coach, he's going to talk crap about me. And why they cannot talk in front of me? Why they go into podcasts and talk about me? First of all, they know the truth. It's very easy to talk about someone to get their attention. But I pay all of them. And I pay them well. Right. And they got their money. But when they cannot do their job anymore because they want to. So the problem with coaches is when they live through somebody else's life. Right. That's not a coach. It's someone that's going to coach you. And if you're not with me, they're going to still honor you. Thank you for the time you were with me. So the problem is like they think like ownership. So example, my son. I don't take credit for nothing. You know what I tell my son? I love you. And if you don't want to love me, I'm going to still love you for the rest because I chose to be his father. So when you hire a coach or when you start to go into somebody else, you chose that person to be with you. But if not there with me anymore, I'm going to still honor my students even though he's under somebody else. Why? Because I'm a real coach. I admire. So I can only take you so far. From here right now, you say, Victor, I'm sorry, but I'm going to choose to train. So now I'm not your friend anymore just because you don't want to train with me. So it's like this. You got to understand. You only know who is your friend. So friend, when I say, who is your friend? Friend has nothing to do with business. Friend is somebody when I'm with you broke, when I'm with you with a lot. So that's how you know a friend. So it's easy to be your friend when you're, how many calls you get when you're a champion? You know, when you lose, some guys, they kind of, so it's just kind of, it's tough. You guys know, yeah.
And what we do as fighters is different. Even though the structure could overall look similar, but it's completely different than every other sport. You have football, basketball, even maybe wrestling, because wrestling is still controlled in a sense. Yeah, I can go train with Russia and get better in that sense. And you're 100% on the right track. There's definitely a lot of truth to, if I train with this guy who's a great striker from this team, best in my same division, I can learn and I can get better for my future fights. But there's just one thing that you can't account for is that we do something that is one of the most primal forms of expression out there. There's nothing like fighting. It's something no one teaches us necessarily. No one teaches kids how to fight. We naturally do that. So there's going to be a different feeling that is attached to that as opposed to like playing a basketball game or maybe just a wrestling match. Yes, you can win and lose that. But when it's as primal as fighting feelings and emotions and are all involved in that, to where, yes, I can come train with you, but then I have to fight you. And you've had legendary fights, and I mean, from you winning the titles and all of these different situations. So can't you see that there's a difference that you can't 100% quantify it in that group?
I understand, sense? But I mean, we see today, you train with Gilbert and you fought Gilbert. You train with and you fought, and you guys still friends.
Yes, but not everybody can do that.
I know, but that's the thing. Why you guys did that? Because you guys achieved the place you achieved. So, example, I never think it's fair for me to stop some. Do you know how? Like, let's say I love my son, and let's say I love my brother, and I have a belt, and then my brother has to fight me. What is the most I'm gonna stop him to fighting me? It's time for him to fight me and make money. No, you don't fight me because you're loyal to me. So loyalty has nothing to do with competition. I think it's the most honor. We punch each other in the face in the gym. If it is time for us to face, we need to be more business oriental. Why boxers make a lot of money? Let's say, who doesn't want to make $20 million, $50 million a fight? But boxers, they spar and they fight against each other in the ring. So we need to learn something with boxing. Why? Because boxing has more time. So we need to be stopping to being little Robert, because why promoters knows how to control fighters? Why trainers control fighters? So example, who can teach me more than another fighter? I can have the best coach, but if we sit in the room today, one day, and we all start sharing, we can innovate the sport. But how many of these times happen in our business? Why? Ego. Right now, it's easy for me to walk in a room and say, that ego is big, that ego is killing him, that ego. But it's easy for me now because I'm outside. I'm not inside anymore. So example, do you know how many fighters call me for advice? How many guys? Call me just to ask advice. How I deal with my wife 10. When I'm training. How many guys in my whole career?
How many fighters have called you for advice?
Advice, just advice. Like Kobe did with how many? Like, hey, Victor, can you give me advice? Not even fighting, just personal. How many personal things stop fighters to progress?
Let's say maybe 5.
Not even 5. Do you see the danger? And they have my number. But just call for advice. How many times we talk, I want advice from my, David, can you give advice to David? Can you give advice? Why? Why they need to hear you? You went to the mountain. Why my son? I asked David, go talk to Kamaru. And just one question lighted up a conversation. And in the car, I had 3 hours of conversation with my son because of that answer. So you need to understand, asking question, humbling question. But today, fighters has ego. I don't want to talk to him. They walk around Kamaru, they was saying, oh, no. Hey, Kamaru, I grew up watching you. How many guys they walk around? I know they, Anderson Silva. His first fight, he came with he was a Vitor Belfort fan. But, and then we put things in the middle and after things. And, you know when someone is bad? When someone comes gospel. Hey, that guy talk about you? No, don't listen to the gospel. It is a gossip. Yeah. They gossip behind. It's a bunch of little rats in camps. This guy say this. We need to understand. If someone says so, I call the guys, hey, listen, so-and-so came and said you say so. Oh, that guy did the same thing. So sometimes rivalry attempt to happen because there's a lot of little rats. Right. And I think it's a lot of people wants attention, But
so do you feel that? Because you keep bringing that up, Vitor. Do you feel like, because you are one of the pioneers, and sometimes do you feel like as a Brazilian fighter, as a legend, do you feel people really talk bad about you because you can't defend yourself? I can tell you, I've heard things, and I'm just like, dude, it's like what you said. It goes one out, it goes in one ear, out the other. It's like, man, if you truly know this man, you know that he's a great father. He loves God. He fears God, and a little bit of what we're talking today. You're dedicated to the dream. You're loyal to the dream. It's not your coach. It's not your training partner. It all goes down to you. But do you feel that, Vitor? Do you feel that from
But
from the MMA community?
Why? Because the ego, man. We are ego-driven, and we cannot greatness. For example, I look Kamaru. I remember we in the shower. He doesn't remember. He was in the shower with me. We in the Black Zenith. Kamaru just came there. He was helping me against Jon Jones. He was using the same cream. He's always very delicate with his skin. And he was putting, I said, man, I need to smell like you. Kamaru? He was so nice. And I say, Kamaru, tell me. You know, he was wrestling. He was helping when I fought Jon Jones. Was short notice. I remember that he shot, kind of tore a little rib before. Remember, because of a shot, he was teaching me. And I was humbly learning from someone that knows wrestling. And he was, and I was listening to everybody. And so I'm very humble, man, when I'm in the mat. I want to learn. In the spinning kick, I brought a karate guy. He saw it, he witnessed. I used to bring guy Pedro Diaz, but he always have a politics. Don't bring coaches, they want our attention. Coaches want attention. And I remember, hey, make sure you submit. Oh, make sure you talk about me. So I know the whole thing. It's too much. So I just want someone to say, just win. Don't talk about, I don't care if you mention my name. I'm there for your dream. So because the problem is too many, oh, I need to thank this person. Oh, I need to thank, oh, my mom. Oh, you didn't thank me, son. Your mom, oh, dad, you didn't. So we have a lot of things around. So I know the whole thing. But I was so against that. So people criticize me because I go to the truth. I want to know this. I'm concerned about the dream. The dream is for you to win. When you get the phone, you know what I tell people? Sell the next fight. Make sure, forget. So if I coach someone, don't talk about me. Now we need to coach, be a seller. You're a salesman. You have the mic. You have what? So if I can coach a guy, can I coach someone now? If you get the mic from Joe Rogan, make sure you thank God, but go back to the selling point. You need to sell your fight. You have that time, especially if you had a beautiful knockout. It's time to sell the fight.
Yeah, you gotta say, who do you want next?
Do you understand? So the thing is this, I can help fighters not just by technique, it's by politics. But the problem is this primal thing, this ego thing. The more you humble yourself, the Bible says, the more God exalts yourself. So the more humble you are. When you meet someone so successful, they're humble. They want to learn, they ask questions. And today, it's such an ego thing, you know, like rough, like I'm a fighter, I'm a knocker, like I'm a badass.
I would say, Vitor, that is something that I was always extremely impressed with, and I always watched you do. I don't know if this is something that you thought of throughout your career, but even when I first meeting you, is exactly what you explained. Is I always said, wow, he's willing to come in here and just learn from guys just starting. I mean, Nakahara, the spinning reverse, the hook kick or whatever you call it, that you put out Luke Rockhold with. I remember you seeing him do that, and you were just like training that. Henry, let me do this. And you're training it. And you went and landed it in a fight. And yes, you were willing to just come in there, sit and learn, ask questions. And I did remember always thinking, wow, you know, he's here, he's asking questions of that guy that's new into the sport, hasn't achieved what you've achieved in the sport, but you were always humble and willing to sit and learn from it. So I would say it's something that I definitely saw out of you early. And like I said, you don't know who's always watching you. I saw from you and some of the other guys, but you are right. Ego is because it's something that we do that's so primal. You know, sometimes ego definitely clouds that.
Guess who defeat me more than anybody?
Yourself.
Myself. I can name all the fights. I can name where. I can name how. You know why? I defeat myself. I could be a very, very, very bad. I never learned kick when I was older. You know how old I was when I started kicking?
I remember your career when it was fascinating. I think the first time I really started seeing you use knees in different parts of your body was when you fought Usman.
Yeah, it was the first time.
Yeah, you freaking cut him.
I learned from one guy. He was teaching me. I was just learning that thing. I said, let's choose one thing. I said, I cannot learn. I want to learn one thing. He's short. He's gonna shoot. So I kind of already know. But the thing is this. When you have that kind of brain, I don't know if you guys know, my brain's spinning. I'm here talking, but I can see I think so many things is so speed in my mind, but it's hard when I want to present this glove for somebody else. They say, what? Boxing martial arts? How can you make? I say, I can see him fighting, him beating. Name one guy on your weight. Tell me a boxer on your weight. Canelo? Okay. I'll put my money, if you put the gloves and you can grab that guy 8 rounds, I put my money on you. Why? Because I know he cannot sustain the grapple, the hand fighting, because I know he's not going to knock you out on that fight.
Yeah, so this is Vitor's new, this is a glove that he's designed. This is a 10 ounce right here. And, you did send me the 8 ounce. But with this glove, you're able to put the glove on. You got enough cushion, but to where you could grab. You could grab with the hands as you're being protected. By
no poking. You get no eye poking.
Definitely limited. Yeah, this is special.
So you can now let's box. You can say, Canelo, let's box, but let's evil the ground a little. I'm not gonna kick you. I'm not gonna take you down. But let me grab you.
Yeah.
But Carson Gracie used to tell me one thing. This you guys you're gonna laugh. Before I fought Tank Abbott, a huge wrestler. I forgot his name. You probably know his name. He was, Roland Gardner.
Yeah.
The number 2 guy. They had the number 2. Roland Gardner has the number 2, one big guy. He's an actor now. So Carson said, he'll say, hey, we need you. He came to the gym and challenged, say, hey, come. Because Carson said, we're gonna fight you. You can do whatever you want. But Victor's not, you can punch Victor, but Victor's not going to punch you, and he's going to submit you. He was so angry. He showed up in my gym. He came there, and I had one friend of mine there. He didn't want to fight him. I was just 8, so I had to throw up and fight him. And remember, I just ate up, and Carson said, just throw up. And say, Carson, but I just ate. Say, Victor, if you go to the restroom and someone snap their hands in the butt of your girlfriend, you're going to say to the guy, I'm full. I cannot. You're going to respond him right away. You're not going to ask his weight. Am I right? So let's go there, and you're going to fight that guy right now. But when I went there, he said, Victor, you're not going to punch. But the guy, he ankle pick. I never see the ankle pick in my life. So someone ankle pick. When I saw it was on the floor, he was in my guard, and he was kneeing me in my cocks and was hurting me. The first time I saw a knee on the cocks, and he was kneeing me on the cocks and he hit me. Right. And then
I'm like, Vitor, okay.
In that tailbone,
yeah.
No,
so
that's painful.
And then I submit the guy, and he was so angry. And do it again. I submit him 3 times, and he left the gym so angry. And I did, but I eventually have to punch him. And Carson was mad because I punched the guy. Say, the strategy, you cannot punch. You gotta finish. You work for. So he has all these crazy things, but the reality of it, as the sports shift, like today, we're in ESPN. I remember, why are we not in ESPN? Why are we a banned on pay-per-view? I went through all the phases, Kamaru, and I know, example, the biggest thing for us, for any fighters is this. At the end of the day, your career is going to end. If you don't know how to save your money is going to end. You're going to be broke. And guess what? All the relationships that really helped you get there, a lot of them, they're not going to be there. So what I learned is this: you got to learn how to make business decision, and people that loves you, they're going to love you whatever decision I'm not in. So if I'm not part of this body, if I'm not part of his camp, but I cannot work, I'm going to still be his friend, because my friendship cannot base in my work with Henry in business. If this podcast doesn't work, you guys not friend anymore. If the camera guy is not working, you cannot talk to me anymore. So you got to understand, business decision, relationship decision. You got to know. So the biggest issue in the world today is called relationships, where my wife, she's my partner in everything. When my business will go wrong, she's still my partner. If she does something wrong, she's still my partner. When I'm going to make mistakes with you, but when I make mistakes, you're going to love me enough to say, Victor, I forgive you. Hey, let's go. But unfortunately, we are judged by, hey, I'm not in your corner anymore. I guess you have another coach now. Oh, I see you went to train with that guy. Come on. So it's like little kids, and at the end of the day, everybody's getting paid, So if you're paying someone to do their job, just do your job. And I'm going to ask you something. How many meetings a trainer does for one fighter? How many meetings with all the coaches? How many meetings? During your career, how many times you meet with all the coaches and they're on the same page?
A few times. Very few. I would say, yeah, not a lot.
But you know how football is? They meet at least three times a week. So example, if you're fighting for the title, and I'm gonna tell you, if you're fighting for the UFC title, you gotta put all your stuff to the other side, and they gotta be in the room for one purpose. So do you know a lot of coaches, they don't like each other? Yeah. Offense coordinator, defense coordinator, they don't like each other, but they're working for. Do you know how many guys? But they win championships together. So let's learn. How many years we have in our sports? How many years?
Over 30.
It's nothing. It's a baby. We are baby sport. So we have how many years in football? We got to learn from them. What they do right, what they do wrong. So.
Yeah, but let's take it back a little further, Vitor, because I know a little bit of your childhood, how you were kind of raised. You know, talk to me a little bit about growing up in Rio de Janeiro, a kid that had lofty dreams, and then how is it that you transitioned to the United States? Because I find it so fascinating, Vitor. For those who don't know, I feel like Vitor needs like a docu-film for everything that you've went through.
Yeah.
You know, a kid from the favelas. Yeah, and I'm gonna chime in.
So the whole thing about Rio, like, you know, they have a mix, like where I grew up in Leblon. Leblon you have the favela, you have the middle class, and you have the upper class living in one place. In one place, you have kind of mix of everything. So, and I come from a middle class. My parents, they treat me so well. They give me everything they could. But, you know, I remember when I was a kid, they are divorced. It was very rough, you know, seeing my parents divorce. So it is the worst thing a parent can give to their kids, is just seeing their parents fighting, you know, so that was the UFC for real. But it has no rules. When you're fighting, you know, when you see parents are fighting for their kids and they don't respect each other because something didn't work, you have to understand, you have to put it aside. And even though if it didn't work in marriage, you guys have to raise kids together. So that was hard for me to going through that separation. So that was the hardest thing for my growing up as a child. So sport was my way out. So I was very good soccer player. I was BMX champion, Brazilian champion, BMX. Everything that I did, I became successful in an early age. With 8 years old, Brazilian champion in BMX, like phenom. And then soccer, you know, great soccer player. Tennis, I was a great tennis player.
Yeah.
So,
I want to learn tennis.
Yeah. So I was a great tennis player, but I mean, tennis is an upscale sport. So I felt awkward when I was involved because my parents didn't have money. So, but people say you should go, you should pursue that dream. Gustavo Kirten is the #1 tennis player in the world one time. We used to compete against each other. So, but tennis, I was so violent in tennis. I was so violent in sport. I think because of the way I respond to everything else, because of my thing that happened in my house. But I was a loving kid. I want to have a family. I want to be a father. I want to be a husband. I knew that what I didn't have in my house, I want to have one day. So that was my main goal.
So at what age did your parents like split up?
I was 4 years old.
Oh, you were 4.
I was 4. I remember that day. I remember the scene in my mind. So I don't remember clearly because the memories is so hard, but I remember clearly the traumas that you know they call PTSD before. They didn't have any names, but so and now everybody have the excuse to do whatever they want. How you heal trauma? For me, it's simple, through the Bible. You know, you heal trauma by understanding, you know, who we are. We are sinners, and we need the grace. We need to exercise the grace of God. And how we do it? By working in becoming the better version of yourself. But I mean, a lot of people have excuse to do things. I am like this because of that. I am as deep because of my dad. So I understand that now, but before I didn't want to become like my dad and my mom. So I want to fighting for something else. So when I saw fighting, when I went to the gym, jiu-jitsu, and when it was, before it was MMA, was vale tudo, I went to Carson, my jiu-jitsu coach took me to Carson. He said, "You're so good, let me take you to Carson Gracie." When Carson Gracie, the best of the family Gracie, saw me, he said, "Oh my God." But I had an advantage. I used to train boxing. So when I became a jiu-jitsu fighter, I was already a boxer.
So you were a boxer before you.
But we used to box on the street. I learned on the street with my friends in where I live. In Favelão, one guy said, "Forget about jiu-jitsu. You need to learn boxing if you want to become a vale tudo." So I had a vision. I say jiu-jitsu is not going to give me where I want. UFC just had the birth. Royce Gracie was there. And they said, "Victor, Carson Gracie and the Gracie family was split." So we knew that Royce was having an advantage of people because nobody knew. But we had many other best fighters was with Carson. Carson Gracie is the guy who was the creator of the defending the Gracie family. He was the one who defending the name of the Gracies. He was the MMA guy. So everybody trained, even when they had luta livre versus jiu-jitsu, he trained everybody. So he was the guy. So I had advantage because I had contact with Carson when I was 14. And then I picked it up and I knew that jiu-jitsu, I had a vision as a businessman. I was already a kid that I want to succeed in life. And then I had a trip, 16 years old, I had a trip to Hawaii to surf, and the boyfriend of my mom took us there. My mom sold a car. We went there, and no one in Carson Gracie Academy was able to fight these pancration guys there. And I was 16 by the time. And I did fight these guys, and they all over the magazine, Japan magazine, started putting me there. And I remember I already had that mentality of like, we need to unite it. Carson used to separate, and the Gracie say, "Why we don't unite it?" I always had we got to be one family. And I didn't agree Carson and the Gracie was separated. But unfortunately, I was very young, and nobody wants to hear a young kid. And I wanted to train with Rickson. I wanted to train with them, but I couldn't. They didn't let me. But I went anyway. I went to train with Rickson. Rickson received me so well in his house. I was 16. I slept in the garage. I had contact with these people that I look up to.
So your story goes that. So you really had a chance to dabble with the Gracie family.
Yeah, but the problem is like Carson was like my father. He wants to adopt me as his son because his son never fought. He never had a male kid like Elio had Rickson.
Yeah, but he literally, like legally wanted to adopt you?
Yeah, so that's when my mom and my dad say, "No, Victor has to have Belfort as his nickname. He wants to I was supposed to fight as a Vitor Belfort Gracie. He wants me to be his son." So, and I'm glad because it was good for me and good for him. Everybody needs your legacy, so we can train together, but you carry your legacy. Like my son has his legacy. He's playing football. So the problem is when you put someone under too many pressure, you adding so much things. Everybody has a story. But my story it is so much in one podcast, but I want to brief read. So I was there and I want to unite it. I never could. I was considered a traitor. Oh, Victor is a traitor because I want Carson to train Marco Ruas. But you know what they did? They kicked Carson out of his own gym. Everybody threw Carson away. So Carson, he was supposed to train Marco Ruas in the first Marco Ruas fight. Federico Lapenda was the guy who brought us to America. I made the deal. I brought Carson to America. I made the deal. So the whole thing. So I was going to train with Rickson, but I said, "I can't, Lapenda. I train with Carson. If you want to bring Carson here, I can come here." So and then we came to America. Federico Lapenda brought us to America. We opened the gym. Later on, we split. John Peters came to the scene. John Peter was a film producer. He opened a gym in West Hollywood. Guess who was our student there? Joe Rogan. He was a commoner. No, yeah, he was my student. He used to train in there. He used to train under the gym. So everything started. My debut was my debut, and Joe Rogan debut was the same day. So everything birthed in LA kind of thing. You know, the Gracies created the UFC. They sold the UFC. You know, I had a chance to fight in Hawaii. Carson wanted me to fight as Vitor Gracie. Man, it's so much. It's so much in the middle. So in my first fight, we had the whole Lakers team there. The whole Lakers team. Shaq, Kobe, you know, everybody.
Yeah. So that's something that I did want to talk about. Like you literally had you used to have backyard fights, and you used to go to Beverly Hills, right? Like different parts of LA, right? Like some of the, you know, were matches and you would fight, right?
So they had this guy he's in the gym, he's in my gym. He always paid cash. He took us to this place in you know the how you call the Crips and the Bloods.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, but I mean he had some associated, you know, he was going to school, like with law school.
Yeah.
But they used to do these fights over there. So, and I mean, I used to teach classes. You know, Mickey Hook was my student. So Mickey Hook was my student, and he used to get me to bodyguard. I remember one day I said, I don't want to do it anymore because he was so nuts. Going to bodyguard him, I was 17 years old. And it was too wild. His life was too wild. So I said, I cannot do this anymore. But he used to, remember, I used to teach for eating food. I used to trade lessons. Back in the days, like literally, like it was like we'd had nothing. Like I used to live in the gym. I used to live on the mat for a full 2 years, living on the mat with that dream to become a UFC champion one day. And I was 16. I turned 17. With 18 years old, I get my chance to fight in Hawaii against Jon Jones, and that was my ticket.
All right, Vitor, well, before we go, you have such a legendary career, and I want to just throw out a few because there's some people who are gonna ask and they want to know, especially even myself. Few questions. I just want you to, you know, because you know this is your brain, the wealth of knowledge. Throw out the answers that comes to mind right away. Quick, rapid questions. All throughout your legendary career, who was your favorite fight?
My favorite fight?
Yes.
I'm going to give you my favorite fight because it was the biggest lesson. Because people say, the one I win or the one I lost. Randy Couture, when I get my West beat by a guy who I said,
dirty clinch.
I'm going to fight. How I came losing to that guy.
Right.
But you know, in my mind, I was getting beat, but I could not sustain because I choose to be big. I choose to listen to this trainer, and I didn't listen to this trainer. I was trying to reinventing myself, doing something wrong. So I did a lot of right things in my life, but also I did a lot of wrong things. For their loss was a big lesson. It was a big lesson.
Right. And which one was your worst fight?
Oh, I had some. I had a lot. So it's hard to.
Number one, you just know.
Worst
this
fight.
One was the worst fight.
Let me go back. That's so many. You know, when you lose for yourself is the worst fight. I think that's one of my worst fights is when you lose for yourself. So I think that also I'll name my worst fight was that loss against Randy Couture. Was my best fight because I remember, like, it's so vivid. I didn't listen to Carson, and I trying to, you know, I was too full of myself. I want to do things in myself. I want to prove everybody wrong. So the same mind that is brilliant, it was the same mind that was defeat me. So that fight was the biggest lesson, the best fight that teach me lesson, but also was the worst fight that, you know, that I knew that I lost for myself. That was
right. Now, Vitor, you're a phenom in the game. You're a legend in the game, a pioneer in the game, and these aren't words that we associate with a lot of different fighters. There's so much when we talk to guys and legends like yourself, there's so much that we can ask, we can talk about. I mean, this could easily be a 5-10 hour conversation because you have such a wealth of knowledge. But you've been through the sport, and you've been through it from decades after decades. And before we go, I mean, you still pop in the gym here and there. You still coming up with stuff. You got gloves. Have we officially hung up our gloves and
Yeah, like I still, you see, like it's funny because you have the fight on you, but do you have the fight in you? We always gonna have that. That's what is like. I still have it, but sometimes you cannot move. Sometimes I see myself move and say, "My God, I'm so bad." I thought I was doing good, but I'm still like you can see your decline. Like of course, people can say whatever they want. I know what I can do. That's the good thing now because I have a thing that I say in my house: kill your ego. So every time we see yourself, my daughter say, "Dad, kill your ego." So we have that kill your ego, but also feed your ego. So we have the two things. The elements ego for me today stand for effort, grit, God, and obedience. So when they say kill your ego, I know what I have to feed my ego. So it's the sense. So I know what I can do. So I'm not trying to achieve anything. But some fun fights out there to entertain the public. I had a dream to put this in the market because my dream is to see you versus Canelo, to see him against, Garcia, see like, every heavyweight, whoever's Jon Jones versus, but let's unite the sports. My dream, if I want to, before I leave this earth, I would like to see us getting paid a lot. I want to see him making 20 million a fight or 50 million a fight. And I remember when I fought when I fought my first UFC, the same month Mike Tyson was fighting Evander Holyfield for $30 million. This is in 1996. That was my dream. I was fighting for $50,000 if I win the tournament. So my dream is to see the payday increase, but also not for everyone, but for some guys that earn it. Like I believe we all work hard here and we all trying to get that big payday. So my dream is to see this two sport coming to agreement, and let's put a glove and see who can overrule another with their hands, like we call. And now we know wrestlers. You guys, I can. That's what I love about wrestling. If I say, what's your favorite martial arts for becoming a fighter? Wrestling, because you can impose your will with your hands, but also boxing. So it's kind of bringing a little bit of the martial arts of this both together. I think that will be my dream, but that's something that I really want to see it happen in the future, near future. I see this coming.
Well, Vitor, obviously this is definitely going to stir up some things as far as people starting to potentially train like that, or start to box or mix it too. I think this is definitely something that could bridge that gap. So
and protecting the fighters too. Like Henry got poked in the eye. I think we have a lot of things to change in our sport itself. Like example, the gloves, the rules. A lot of things have to change for longevity, because I always see how we protect our fighters. Like football, they're always changing rules just to protect. And never went down the viewership. Like when you protect it, like sometimes say, oh, the quarterbacks now, they're so protected. Yes, you got to protect the quarterback, because if you don't, it's vicious. So it's a very tough sport. And I can't wait to see the sport continue to grow. And I want to help. I really want to help. And how can I help in other ways is always say, what's the biggest assets in the sport is the fighters.
Right. No, it's, this is definitely a start, and I'm sure it's something that, people are going to want to, I know I'm going to want to try it. But you've had such a legendary career across decades, and you've seen such a new wave of fighters and everybody that has continued to come in. And, you've been watching from the side, but, guys, we go back when we want to look at what has come before us and what helped get us here. You are definitely at the top of that list as well. So, big respect as I've always had for you, and I want to thank you for coming in and just talking to us a little bit and giving us a little bit of that knowledge. You know, it's a pleasure still seeing you around. I mean, you still look the same. You know, I mean, you don't have the long, little rat tail walk anymore. But I still look the same. And I just want to thank you for all the years of your performances, your entertainment, because you definitely entertained us and then showed us a new way to compete. So I want to say thank you. But as always, I am the Nigerian Nightmare, Kamaru Usman.
Henry Cejudo, a.k.a. Triple C.
The Phenom, Vitor Belfort. And we are out.